Hello, it's
Hello.
Jen.
Yes, hello. Good evening. Welcome to Power Fridays Live, and we are so excited to have with us this evening Dare to Dream Clarity Coach Activator Alicia Vaz, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. How are you
Alicia
doing this
Vaz.
evening?
I am wonderful. I was just listening to some great music and getting all, psyched up for this. This is nice. I'm doing well.
Yes, well, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I am your host, Janelle Pulley, and co host.
Dave Gueresso. Good to have you here, Alicia. I'm excited to have our conversation tonight.
Yeah,
Why
me
don't you
too.
go ahead and open us up and just introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about who you are.
Who I am. First and foremost, I am a devoted Christ follower. I'll lead with that. And it's from that I'm able to serve early stage Christian entrepreneurs through the business, their dream. So I love helping, well, Dear Dream, first of all, the name, Dear to Dream, you said it, Dear to Dream. Those who are, they have a dream in their heart and want to do, want to fulfill that dream. Like they want to do something about it, but they're stuck. Sometimes there is a lack of clarity around what the next step is that they should do. And a big part of me too, once I had an opportunity to live my dream out when I first came to this country. And I would love to see more people, living the dream, not letting that passion and excitement for, like from way back, because I've always wanted to be a stylist here in the salon industry, open up my big salon. And I came to this country and I was able to do so. I felt, and I still feel like I did fulfill that dream that I've always wanted to. And I just feel like there's more, so I revel in seeing others, or whenever I hear of people who, I've always, who said, I've always wanted to do this, and then they got the chance to do it. I want to see more of that happening, so don't let the dream die. That is why I'm here. Similar to like Dave, he's a dream activator. I'm here to clarify that for you because when it comes to growing and the business, there are just some fundamental things that must happen. And that is what I'm focusing on right now.
Excellent. So there, like every good story, there's always something leading up to that moment where the big change happens, the big idea hits, and you start to move towards that. Can you go a little bit deeper for us, Alicia, and tell us the story behind Dare Dream? As comfortable as you are sharing, I realize that
Hmm.
there's a lot there.
Yeah, thank you for that the opportunity. There's a lot. And I don't know how far should I go back, but
Well, why did you choose to come to the United States?
I've always heard that it was the land of opportunity, and that is just the bottom line. You grew up in Trinidad and Tobago, and go to we call secondary school, and you finish. You kind of like tap out so early, unless you have the financial means to go into some kind of university. You may find yourself barefoot and pregnant a lot of times, some measure of that. I mean, there's a lot of that happening, but I just wanted more. And that happened for me, believe it or not, when I saw the Cosby Show. It was like inspiration back then. It's like, wow, look at him and her and the family. And it's just the dream just welled up in me. So always wanted to be here. I had family here. My dad was in this country. So I knew, I got the opportunity through him to make it here. So once I was here, I was on fire. I'm like ready, gotta go, want to do so much. And I did have the salon, um, and I operated that for 5 years. But there were moments in my story, what like pushed me to want to do this, to want to help others like myself. I've had, I've worked, and I've said this to David at some point, maybe I've had experience working for some leaders that I thought weren't taking that responsibility seriously, right? If
Mm,
you are in a leadership position, you are responsible. Like I think it's like from top down, like how the people around you, how they behave, and I think a lot of it has to do with the person who's leading the ship. So sometimes I'm bothered by what I've seen, like going into stores and even people that I've worked for. Just I had some concerns about that in the way in which I was treated as an employee.
Mm.
And I don't know if I can get into all the details. What should
Well,
I?
if I may, like being bullied at work is one a conversation that I
Yeah,
had from someone, and I know that people are in a leadership position and they're either a micromanager or there's some type of hardness that that some managers may feel that they've got to really like put your feet to the fire in some cases. Is that a good way
yeah.
to say it?
Yeah, it's kind of like that. And before the salon opportunity happened for me, I came here as an immigrant and I found myself doing domestic work. Okay, it's degrading. It was degrading at the time, and the opportunity to actually come into the salon industry, when that came up for me, I gravitated towards it because of what I was running from, but I also was running towards something that that's why I came here in the first place. But once I came here, I realized that you cannot work here if you don't have your papers. I'm just being honest. I didn't have, I came here, I was being processed. My dad was filing for me to stay here. So I came on vacation and I overstayed. But then now, ignorance, I thought I would be able, I can make it, I can survive, but it was really hard. So I found myself doing domestic work. And in that moment, I had a couple of great situations. I would say one in particular, the way how they treated me, I said it was like modern day slavery. I could not believe that people in this day and age, when I came, I was shocked. Okay. And in my heart, I was just thinking, that Caucasian people, like how you would hear in shows, they are really bad. Like slavery still exists,
Mm.
So I found myself in this home being it is a
Mistreated for a better word. Mistreated
it,
for a better word. Yes.
yes, yes,
Yes.
like your dignity being stripped away. I'm not
Yes.
being compensated much, but what are you going to do? And I know this is the case for a lot of people coming from those countries and coming here to work, right? So I was um, being paid at the time. It was $185 a week, and every time they took a day off, they took some money out of mine. I was living in their house, and even when I prepared meals, and I couldn't sit and be around their family. Like that was not allowed. And I couldn't eat before they did. And I found myself, and I joke about it now, but I would hide food under the bed because I realized what was happening here in this house. That if they decide to sit until 10 o'clock or whatever, I wouldn't eat. And then there was an instance when they invite me after they were finished to eat something. I think we lost Janelle.
We did.
To
That's
eat.
okay. She'll be back.
Yeah, what was left was just like skin and bones, literal skin and bones. And I just went to my room and I just cried. And I was just like, this was happening too often. So I got smart and I decided to make sandwiches, like hide it away. So when they're eaten, I can go and um, have something unbeknownst to them. And it was just a number of situations, things like that. I can go on, but it was just a bad situation. So I thought, these people are awful, and they all white people are this way. And then God saw fit to put me in another situation, and I had the most amazing experience with the other family, and it kind of balanced things out for me. So when I talk about leadership, um, if I'm glad I got to see that more was possible, because remember, I'm here from a country like Trinidad and Tobago, and not knowing a lot about the system, all I can go by is like what I experienced. So I had this bad situation and then I had a good one. And I say today now, I'm thankful for that, that I got to see that not all people are like that. Not all people lead the same way, right? But I did get to go into the salon. So that's, part of the passion and burn, because I feel like people shouldn't be treated this way. I want people to like me, like fulfill that dream that's in your heart, like in any which way possible. I wouldn't want anyone to work in a situation in which I did when I came here, so that's part of the whole, wanting more. But their dream happened, many years later. In the salon came, I did consulting, worked in corporate America. I got to just explore and experience different types of leadership and different types of um, industry. So it's always been the same thing for me, like how people are leading. So I want to, through their dream, help those where I feel like the world needs better leaders, if that makes sense. Like the world needs better
Absolutely.
leaders. And so if I can help as many as I can, develop the skills, have access to the resources that they need, so that when they go into business, right, we're talking about great leadership. And I feel like if we have great leadership, the people who are under you, people who work with you, partners and stuff, will feel remnants of what it is like to be generous and kind and loyal and treat people in the way that they should be. And that is the kind of people that I'm trying to encourage, the kind of leadership I'm trying to encourage within the Daydream community. So that's the long and short. There is more of like Daydream. Why do I do this? That is it.
That's amazing. And one of the things that stands out to me, Alicia, that is kind of my favorite, most powerful part of your story
Mhm.
is, after everything you went through, you could have been angry. You could have been
Mhm.
bitter, and you would have had every right to be. But
Mhm.
something changed, or I don't know if something changed, or is that the right word? Something.
Fuel. It was the fire that I needed. I can
Mhm,
go, like
mhm,
you said, I could be bitter,
mhm,
right? And that happen. The anger is like frustration to make me want to do more, to make me want to not give up, right? And keep trying and keep knocking on different doors and trying different things, because it's the kind of person that I am naturally. One door closes, I am believing another door, something else will happen, so I'm not going to spend too much time like, dwelling and being angry over that thing. I'm going to try to learn from it. I don't want it to be repeated. I don't think any people shouldn't have to repeat that. I'm here, I'm telling you, if you take your time, like you love, there's something that you're gifted at, you're passionate. God has given us all, right? Gifts. And there are so many problems in the world. Well, in those problems, there are opportunities to do things. That's how I'm looking at it, right? So think of all the things that's wrong with society. Look for the opportunities in those problems. And you match that with what you are good at doing. Hence, purpose, right? The reason you exist. You see how it starts to align. And I'm looking for people who want that, right? This is what you want to try to figure out. I feel like a lot of people are sitting in the wrong seats, right? A lot of us are falling into jobs and falling into things. And what happens, if you stay there long enough, you, like you were alluding to before, you could become bitter, right? Or you might tell yourself, like, this is where I belong. Or you got good at doing something. You've been doing something for so long, and you convince yourself that this is my gift. This is where I'm supposed to be. All it is that you got good at doing it. You became very competent. And I know for myself, if I stay and I practice something long enough, I'll get better at doing it. But what happens, from my experience, what is telling is when you start the frustration, I don't feel as excited getting up and going to this thing anymore. Like, look for the signs, right? It's time to probably, pivot, do something else. But that is that thing that you've been doing for so long. That is not it. You shouldn't. I don't think we're supposed to be so frustrated where we work. I would love to see more of us doing the things we're called to do, like using your gifts, using, like, your hobby becomes your work. That's, it's like you go to work and you're doing this thing that you're so excited about. Yes, you may find yourself having to do jobs, to help fund these interests and passions and causes and things that you're interested in fully. And I say, yes, do those things for a while, but put some time into investing in the things that matter, right? The things that there's meaning to it. Like, it's a slower process, but I think if you are disciplined enough, you will get there. If that makes sense.
It does. In many ways, you describe my story, Alicia. I
Mm,
was there for years, just going to the same job every day,
mm,
just feeling purposeless, feeling like
mm.
this. It was comfortable though, right? And I think that's what you're
Yeah.
describing is that time where you gain competence, and then and then if you have good work ethic and you really have like a strong sense of morality about or virtues or values about the work that you do, it really doesn't matter what you get placed in. You're gonna
Right.
shine the best you can, and that's what you're saying. And in many ways, that's where I was, but I was miserable inside.
Mm-hmm.
I felt
Mm-hmm.
like this really all there is? Like, is this my entire existence?
There
But
is more.
because I knew that that's what made it worse.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't just the lack of purpose. It was knowing that there was more there that I wasn't
Mm-hmm.
acknowledging, that I wasn't walking into. And so for years I stayed there because it was scary, the thought of making a transition. And all these questions came to mind, like, what is it that I should do? How do I make a transition? What's my family going to think about it? What am I going to do for income? And all this stuff, it just
Mm-hmm.
starts, freaking me out. So I say all this because I think that there's others out there just like me that
Mm-hmm.
they feel it deep down, but they don't know how to respond. So they just stay in that comfort zone and they don't jump.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
what should we be doing, or what should we be thinking about when when
Mm-hmm.
when it's time to make that transition? And how do we even know what the signs are? What does that look like?
Yeah. Yeah. That is a good question, and it's different for everyone. I mean, I have thoughts about it. First and foremost, you got to pray about this thing as you're making the move. But I don't want that to just is like, I use this the excuse, right? Not saying that prayer is an excuse, but sometimes a lot of us, it's like, I'm going to take it to God and pray and not do anything, right? And I'm waiting for, like, the opportunity to come and knock on the door. Like that, how often has that happened for you? I mean, I haven't had one knock on my door in all the years that I've existed.
Okay.
So I will pray, and I will, trust God as I'm making steps, because you want to do something, like take these, like, baby steps towards, where you want to go ultimately, like having a plan. Like, like, I want to do this. Here I am. I'm stuck in this job. I wouldn't encourage you to just quit your day job. You know, I want you to think about it, right? I'm going to start taking some money and putting into this thing, like work it slowly. That can happen for some of us, but if you have responsibilities, I think you have to think wisely about that before you just give it all up. And it's like, yeah, I know God wants me to do this, but it's also very unwise to, okay, all of a sudden you're not paying your bills, and you're not taking care of your family as you should. I think there's some sense of balance that should be forged, right? It's like we talk we often talk about Paul and him being like a tent maker, right? um, and he did that for a while. Well, actually, from as far as I know, I don't know when it stopped, but it was what helped to fund his ministry, the work that he was called to do. That was part of the tent making. And if you can look at your situation, like where you're working like that, like using it, like this is what is going to fund that dream of mine. I think you there's a sense of peace or hope that can well up in you, right? Like I'm working towards something. So use this as, see it as the bank almost, right? Because you can go to the bank and get a loan and so forth. And that's another way. There's just so many ways to look at it. But I'm just thinking, take your time with this dream or gift. With God put something on your heart to do, He will provide. And you will know it's time to move. Like, I need to do this. Like, I'm going to trust you. Like, this signs, or it's there. It's evident that it is time for you to move on to the next thing. And then sometimes, you make those bold leap, but I think people, when they do that, they have like some kind of security, like savings. They've planned for this. So when we see some people make those bold leaps, it's like, oh, I left my job. Yeah, they've been planning this for a while. So they go and they jump and they make the move and make a bet on themselves, sort of. And they try. Again, everything you do in prayer, trusting God, in step with Him, like, should I do this? Really? Like, think about it. If you're going to plan for a business, there's certain things that you need to sustain this business, until you start to generate some kind of revenue, the business is sustaining itself. You can then slowly move away from, the full-time job, maybe part-time and so forth. So some kind of version of that, but I still feel like don't let the dream die, right? Like, do something every day towards that effort.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you brought up Paul too,
Mm.
right? And
Let's
the
talk
tent
about
making
Paul.
thing. We should talk about Paul because I think he actually is a perfect example of what
Mm.
we're talking about here, and also a perfect correlation back to that leadership stuff that you were talking about.
Mm.
Right? Leaders don't usually develop. I've heard it said this way: they're not in a microwave; they develop in a crock pot.
Mm.
Right? It takes time, right? We're
Yeah,
talking
yeah,
hours
yeah.
versus the
Mm.
few seconds, and in reality, it's more like years versus a few weeks,
Mm.
right? And
Yeah,
so
yes.
if we look at, right, because and I have to put this out there too, I started this journey with my business
Mm.
in 2015. So I'm in like the eighth year of this
Mm.
process. Actually, just started the ninth year. So it's been that long, almost a full decade. But so many
Mm.
things transpired between now and then. So let's talk about Paul for a second.
Mm.
Here's something that doesn't get talked about a lot. When he was first approached by Jesus, right, on the road to Damascus, and he was blinded, and then the scales fell from his eyes, and he got his sight restored. What nobody really talks about is it took, I think, something like 4 years of
Mm.
training before he even began his ministry, and he
Mm.
became that one of those leaders and carrying that message out to the Gentiles and traveling all over the place, right?
Right,
But
right.
4 years of training, and that meant going side by side with other apostles and other disciples of Jesus, learning what they did.
Not being liked.
What's
he
that?
wasn't liked much either. The
No,
people
right.
yes, but he did it.
He had a full-on transformation of character, to your
Hmm.
point, it, while he's getting trained. So it wasn't
Yeah.
just the knowledge he had to gain, it was the transformation so that he would become who God needed him to be so that he
Yeah.
was prepared to carry that message forward in the way that he did. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I think here's where that kind of we can apply that to modern day life. I think what happens is so many of us, we want that dream like right now. We want to wake
Mm-hmm.
up tomorrow and just wake up in the new life.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be great.
Yeah,
But
it would.
but what, but while you're getting that tent making job, while you're
Mm-hmm.
funding the dream, you're also practicing the things that are giving you the experience. And while you're going through that process, you're actually becoming the person that you were supposed to be so that you
Yeah.
could carry out that mission. And I think we
Yeah.
forget that part. It's a
Yeah.
process. We got to
Yeah.
walk
It's
that.
so much to learn in that. Like you're saying, I'm glad that you mentioned that, because this refinement that happens, there are things you learn about yourself during that process. Like we don't just arrive, like, there's just so much development that has to happen over time. But what happens to a lot of us, we are comparing ourselves to people out there who are not even on the same level, near or even near, and we see how successful they are, right? And they always say they're viral, or how, what other terms, trending, right? And you here now getting started with your business in the very early stages, maybe a couple of years in, and wondering why you don't have that measure of success that they have. And I'm just thinking we need to walk our path, right? And we have to be okay walking the path that is set for us, and it's different, and we need to stop comparing ourselves to others, because some of the things that I see, observe with what we say success, and again, what does success look like for you? And we have to figure out what that is for us, right? You can be 100,000 a year, or you can be a millionaire. I mean, what is success? If it's about money, it could be about building a community. Like, what is success for you? And once you've established that for yourself, then you work towards that, however long it takes you to get there, right? So it's your journey, which I feel like it's so different for everyone. Every great guru will tell you, like, this is, that people, you should do this and then that. And I'm like, okay, that may work for some people, but it is, it's not, you can't paint like a broad
There's no
stroke across.
perfect formula, right?
Yeah,
There's no
that's what I'm
perfect.
realizing
Yeah.
as I do this, and I work with entrepreneurs, and I find myself thinking is like, okay, this person needs this way, and then there's someone, like the same, they all new, but the challenges are so different, and it depends on whose hands it's in, right? Like, how do we approach this? How can I help you? And sometimes that is challenging, but it's also beautiful. And I'm trying to figure out something, like it more custom to you. Like, can I help you? It is, some would say, not as sustainable, because I can't, like, just package that and you here, just do this and then that, and go on. There's just always some nuances there that I still find myself intrigued by, and I'm trying to figure out the best way. But there are just some things I know fundamentally that you should do, and that is what I'm trying to focus on as you're growing your business. Like, okay, we say, let's talk about your ideal customer. Like, who is that? And it's different for every person, right? If we're talking about understanding your market, again, the industry is different, the competition is different, but it's still, we still need to figure out your ICA. We still need to figure out your the market, competitors. How are you going to make this thing successful? And that's what we want, right? When we're building our business. So this is what we're doing constantly, in terms of like coaching. Like, doing this alone is hard. This, right? And who do you come to when you want to brainstorm and run things by. It is always good to have others who might be, walking similar journey with you. We're going after different things, which is why it works so beautifully, right? We all want to achieve some success in business, but I think we can also learn from others, as well as they, and it helps us. So now, how did I get there?
Well, one thing I know is you've been a light in so many people's lives,
Mhm,
right? And I know this about you, hundreds, right? Hundreds of
mhm.
people, at least, if not thousands by now, that you've been able to help. So you're not, this is not new for you, right? And you do
Yeah,
have a group coaching program that
yeah.
helps people do exactly what you're talking about, really identify that specific need. Tell us a little
Mhm.
bit more about how that works.
Yeah. Well, we have a couple of things going on. Like right now, the focus is group coaching because I feel there is just so much more benefit to the entrepreneur to learn, and benefit from the collective wisdom of others. Like you have, like I was saying, your story and other people's story, and it hopefully encourages you, inspires you, and you learn something that you can then not mimic so much, but apply it as is relevant to your business, right? So group coaching is is kind of like the ideal right now for me. I feel I can help more people that way. I did try, and we do have one-on-one collaboration sessions that people can actually, um, speak to an expert, someone in a particular, like yourself, dream activator. Someone may want to just speak to David. I just want to talk to David for an hour or so, and we have a list which is growing of subject matter experts that you can decide who that person is that you would like to, um, brainstorm or get some advice from, so you would offer coaching and mentoring in your area of expertise. So there are some people who the group coaching thing doesn't really work for them, and that is okay. So this is why we have these one-on-one collaboration session, and then we have networking social, which happens once a month. It's very casual. It's a time to meet others in the community because sometimes, when you're doing the work, we're nose down and we're trying to get stuff done. You know, you don't raise up long enough to really get to know the people in the community in a more deeper way. So I feel like these opportunities, like once a month, as we do it, is a good way for you to get to know others in the community, what they're doing, what they're working on, even seeing like what it is they want, and that maybe you can help contribute to, be a part of, and helping them to grow. It's all about us doing the work we love, feeling energized, right? Getting joy and energy from the work we love, actually doing the work and getting some form of traction, not just staying at the gate. We can't, we ain't moving, we're not doing anything. And I'm here is like, we need to get you unstuck. We need you to go out there quickly, try something, right? And see, it's just such a fun thing in that, figuring out if this works or not. Who are my ideal customers like? But you have to try. You can't just play with it in your head, the concept. You have to do something, and in the doing in is where the clarity comes, right? You start to figure out what works best for you. What am I going to say yes or no to? The more you practice, you have to purposefully practice, is how I see it. And we're here to support you so you're not feeling like alone. You're not working in a silo. You're not, you know who do you mastermind with? Even we want to be those people that, we can be your partner. We can be a collaboration partner. That is how I'm looking at Dear Dream. Like we're moving into that kind of model.
That's great. Accountability and encouragement and action oriented.
Yes.
That's what I'm getting, right? When you're in a
Yep.
group like that,
And it's faith driven, and I'm proud of that. I am excited about that. Like you have like-hearted, I say, or like-minded, some would say.
I love like-hearted.
Like-hearted. Okay, so let's stay with like-hearted individuals, like-hearted others there. So you don't have to, we say, check your fate at the door. You come here, we can bust into a prayer when we need to pray for something. We will encourage you, but we'll also push you, which is very important, so that you move forward. But you have partners, you have people who, like we're talking about, accountability, right? Encouragement. We have people. That's what we're there for one another, and that's what we're trying to grow in the Daydream community.
Excellent. So I love the direction of this conversation. I do want to ask you something else, right? Because I feel like the Lord keeps reminding me, use what you have. And so
Mm-hmm.
we know that in order to move forward with our dream, we need to know who we are and sort
Mm-hmm.
of what is that thing that God has specifically given us. And we know that we have to develop as leaders and
Mm-hmm.
become the person that we need to be in order to carry that forward. And that's
Mm-hmm.
where some of the leadership and the group, the accountability, encouragement, and that action oriented approach that we're talking about. But a lot of times, I think once we get there, now we're kind of like, okay, I've got the support I need. I know who I
Mm-hmm.
am. I know what I'm supposed to do. But I don't, maybe the imposter syndrome sets in. I don't feel like I'm good enough, or I don't have enough resources. I don't have. So the Lord will often remind me at times like that, use what you have, Dave.
Yes.
And so, what
Yes.
are your thoughts on that?
I'm right there with you, using what you have in your hands. That's the gift, right? The best version of yourself. I believe in having, like, being excellent in doing your best, putting your best foot forward. We're not going to be half stepping anything here. I believe it is important that you do good work. All right. This will honor God. I believe that, right? He's a God of excellence. So I model that behavior in the way I do my work, in the way I show up and I serve. But it is so important, to figure out what it is you're good at, right? That we can create something out of that, because in that is the joy and energy that's going to come if you're operating in your giftedness. And that's part of the stuff we will talk about when we talk, matching the problems and your gifts, your talents, and figuring out what that step might be for you moving forward. But start with, like you said, start with what you have. You know, it is easier to be able to help someone do something that you are familiar, like you've done this. I've been there, right? And a lot of us, we don't realize, like, we have so much in us, and it sometimes you need a little help pulling out what that beauty, that thing is, that richness that is in you, and we're here to help you do that as well. But like you said, use what you have, right?
Yeah, and I think it's cool because that's why people like you exist, Alicia, to help
uh,
draw that out. Right?
I'm
The,
excited about that. Yes, I
yeah,
want you to be doing, the things that you're good at doing. It is better for the world, right? And I say this because I was talking about being in the wrong seat, we have a lot of people out there, they're just miserable. They're feeling hopeless, lacking joy in jobs where they can little or anything about. So then you encounter that person, you go into this organizational establishment and hi, my name is David, and the person is just like, why are you bothering me? Like, that kind of thing happen. And I want to see less of that happening, because I feel if I'm excited about what I'm doing, like I love coaching, I love seeing you succeed. I love supporting you. So you come to me, I'm all over this. I'm excited about doing this work. I want to see more people like that in the world. You're doing the work you're supposed to do, your way you're supposed to be. We need more of that around, right? And that is what I want to help be a part of. Like, let's get them in the right seat. God help us.
Amen. I love it. And so, one
Mhm.
last thing, right, before we wrap up. What is it? What do you believe the world's going to look like? Right. This is you and I share this passion. Right. But what
Mhm.
is the world going to look like if everybody's doing what they were designed to do? Like, what's the ultimate outcome of that?
Yeah, there's more love around, you know, there's more compassion for people, for mankind. We will see more of that, more of Christ likeness, more so than not. Listen, I know it's a uphill sort of battle, but it's one worth fighting for, right? We need people to be more caring, loving, generous. I mean, there are people out there like that, you know. I just want more of that in the world. I want it to be, um, we say percentage wise, right? Let's flip it, right? 80%, 20% not, something like that, right? That would be better. It's better for people, you know, it's just better for mankind on the whole. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. What are you thinking?
First thing that comes to mind, one of my visions is I want to see, and I actually put a number to it. I want to see 35 million people in the United States or around the world walking in their purpose before
Yeah,
I die.
yeah.
35 million people. What would it look like? Even 100 people, but
Hmm.
35 million people living out their God given purpose, needs
That's
being met.
specific. Look at that. I'm claiming that. I like that. That's
we can,
that's what we're talking about. Doing what you're supposed to do. But in that, the world is a better place. And that's what I'm talking about. Like, if you're doing what you're supposed to do, you know, I want to see more people. Well, I don't have a number as clear as you, but maybe I should think about that. Like, what would that look like? 1 million people who've actually just raised their hands saying, I am doing what I'm supposed to do, right? My dream is now my most inspiring reality. How many people are going to raise their hands? I mean, I'll put that out there. I want to see how many people we have doing that. That would be awesome.
Yeah, and if you're listening, please put it in the comments, right?
Mhm.
Say yes, I'm living out my dream. Just put it in the comments. So
Yeah.
while they're doing that, Alicia, tell us, how can people reach you to get involved in what you're doing?
Yeah. The best way, really, is Katie. She
And
asked a
you're feel
question.
free to answer the question. Go ahead. What's one way you stay motivated and achieving your goals despite nobody cheering you onward? It's a great
Yeah,
question.
it is. Okay, so if people want to reach me, daredream.co is the best way. So daredream.co. That's the best way to reach me. And you can find me on, other social media profiles as Daredream DC. So at Daydream DC. All right. So Katie has a question there. How do you stay motivated in achieving your goals despite nobody cheering you on? Yeah, I feel like you need to have a compelling why, right? It's that thing that even if you don't make a cent, even if nobody is cheering you on, as Katie is saying, if no one is cheering, I think your reason for going after whatever it is has to be compelling and really meaningful. That regardless if you don't have a fan club, I will get up and I will do this. It has to mean something to you, right? To make you want to stay. It's like if I I do anything, like I'm not making money. Like they talk about that, right? What's that saying? It doesn't matter. what, $1 million. Um,
Yeah, if I
what is
had a
that?
million dollars, that
Yeah,
song. Yeah.
yeah. So something like, what would that thing be for you? Like, and that's what I feel like. It has to have some meaning. It has to be compelling. Yeah, for sure.
That
What do
is
you?
what is so powerful, right? Because I just think of Jesus, right? There's this song, "Reckless Love." Have you ever heard of that? Heard
Mhm.
that song? And
Yes.
there's a lyric. There's no mountain I won't climb up, or he won't
Mm,
climb up. No shadow he won't light up,
yeah.
right? No lie he won't tear down. All these things that he will come running after us because
Hmm.
nothing mattered more to him than to restore his relationship with you and I. And he would
Mm,
have done it for you as an individual as much as the masses, right? He loved us that much that he was willing to give it all and literally die on our behalf. And I
mm.
think it takes that level of passion if you're really going to overcome all odds.
Yeah, I
Because
guess.
one,
Yeah.
we know that we're going to get attacks, right? Because the
Hmm.
moment we start bringing that honor to God that you're talking about, the enemy's going to start launching missiles.
Mm, yeah.
It's what is it that we can do to stay armored up, right? To put
Hmm.
on that armor, raise the shield, so that we're prepared when those attacks start coming.
Hmm. Yes. There you go.
So it's passion, right? And passion isn't just something you're excited about. Passion is something that has a deep embedded why, like you're saying, Alicia. It's the thing that no matter what, this must happen. The only
Right.
thing that's stopping me is my own death. That
Exactly.
literally that much fire.
And that's what you're talking about with Jesus coming after us. It doesn't matter, like no mountain, nothing, no walls. He was determined. He had a compelling why he came here in the first place, and he was tempted, right? But he still did it. He was beaten, he was betrayed, yes, and he still. So your why has to be a constant. Like you have to figure out what that is, like why you do what you do. And for me, like even with their dream, at its core, I say connecting people to the heart of Christ, right? Connecting entrepreneurs primarily to the heart of Christ. I feel like that is key to success. That is it in a nutshell. That is the bottom line. Your heart needs to be connected with Christ. And from that, you work, you move, you build, you do. That is where it starts.
One of the things I learned years ago, right, is that there are there are an infinite number of ways that God
Hmm.
can reach our hearts.
Hmm.
And a lot of us, right, we create judgments, prejudgments on what can and can't be used, and we essentially put God in a box.
Hmm.
But he has specifically walked me through scenarios where he got me to see that there is no avenue, no way that he won't use in some way to reach you, right? And so we're doing something that you and I are specifically designed to do, but at the core of it, right? That
Hmm.
core passion, just like our King, is to restore our hearts
Yes,
or others' hearts that we're working with to that King, right?
exactly.
Because we're in a kingdom.
Yes,
Ultimately,
yes,
we're
yes.
just part of the kingdom, and we want to build that kingdom up and bring them back to the King because he loves them. He loves
That's
all
where
of
it
us.
starts. That is where,
Yeah.
if renew it. That's where we got to get back to that, the heart of Christ.
Yes.
Amen.
Yep. All right. So this has been awesome, Alicia. I'm so glad that you joined us on the show. I'm sorry we lost Janelle, but
I wish.
I think something tells me she's in the background watching. But what are the final words that you have for the audience?
I see Janelle is back with us, but final words: love God, love yourself, right? Trust Him. Truly, be intentional about the time you spend growing in your relationship with Christ, that's where the power comes from. That's where the strength comes from, in knowing Him, knowing His Word, and then knowing what you need to do. That is it. It starts there, it ends there with Him. And there is no daydream, there is no other business without Him. There is no, you can't, don't try to do it without Him. That is what I'd say. You need Him to be, you need to walk with Him through it all, through the thick and the thin, the highs, the lows, and you're going to face that when you're in business, right? It's not going to always be pretty. You're going to, I'm just being honest. So in case, anyone's listening, they're feeling like, I get into business and now I've arrived and things are going to be all great and so forth and that is not reality. That's not the truth. That's not how it is. But welcome even the hard times, because in that you do grow. There's so much to grow and learn about yourself. You only get stronger. But the thing is that you're not alone. God is always with you. And you have to believe that. You have to believe that He's always with you. Even if you may not feel it all the time. Just trust that He wants your good. He wants good for you. Right? And He loves you. He loves you. And you have to believe that. You have to actually believe that. And then you move.
Somebody very close to me, an important person in my life, often repeats, those who are loved well, love well. But
Yeah.
the inverse is also true. Those who are not loved well do not love well. This is why it's so important, what you just said, Alicia, that we receive the love from the Father, because without that, it's really hard to really muster up the passion that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
We can't
Yeah.
have that if we're not filled. And so another friend of mine also talked about a cup, right? We have a cup, and whatever we're taking in day after day, is we're filling it up. We're filling it up. And then what happens? Somebody bumps into us. The cup spills over, right? Whatever's in that cup is what's going to spill over.
Right.
So if you put
Yeah.
garbage in, you get garbage out. If you get love
Yeah.
in, then you get love out. It's
Right.
just an
Right.
inevitable principle, regardless of who you are or where you are in your journey. That principle still applies.
That's so true.
One other thing I'll add too, and then Janelle can close
Yes.
this out, is, you know, the Lord also had me realize something new about a year and a half ago about the scripture that says, "If you when you delight in the Lord, He'll give you the desires of your heart." Right? And
Yes.
and I used to think, right, that this meant that, if I want something, He's just going to give it to me because He loves me, and I think that's true. I still think that's true. But He also showed me in that moment. I was talking to a friend of mine, and it hit me, when I delight in Him and I'm spending more time, His cup will bump over and spill onto me. And when that happens, His desires replace mine.
Yeah.
And the reason I think this is important is because we're walking around, so many of us, with these big dreams inside of us, and we don't realize that that dream was never ours to begin with. It belongs to the Father, the one who made you, and He created you to carry that with you and allow that to go out into the world, to actually steward that dream, and carry it forward so that others will be blessed and restored by it. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
if you have that dream, if you have that within you, don't let that die. Like
Yeah.
Alicia, don't let that die.
Mm.
So I strongly encourage all of you to reach out to Alicia. I'm 100% confident that she's going to take good care of you and help you move forward in whatever that dream is.
Yeah. Thank you, David. Thank you, Janelle. It's a good one,
Oh,
David. I
you're very
like what.
welcome, Alicia. And I just want to say yes to David. Yeah, you have a cup, and that cup spills over. Guess what? You have a saucer. So there's always God there. The God is the saucer that's going to be catching everything that spills over. I just want to put that in your spirit. And now,
All
God,
right.
no other way. God is the way. So thank you so much, Alicia, for sharing that. So
My
now, God,
pleasure.
being part of your business, that is number one. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us this evening. Thank you for your questions. If you want to stay connected to us, please do like, follow, share this message today. It was a wonderful message from Alicia, and we are better together. The group coaching that Alicia has available to you, I definitely recommend it. And as we always say, catch the replay, let us know, be, do, and have the greatness that you desire because the greatness is in you. And do not let your dreams end up in the cemetery of dreams because you want to live your life and live it abundantly. Now is the time. Take care and God bless. We'll see you next week on Power Fridays Live here at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Take care and be blessed, everyone.
Thank you.